Are you ready to take control of your life and join a community of like-minded women who are on a mission to live their best lives too? Healthier, happier, and wealthier? Then get ready to find the support and motivation you need to pursue your passions and goals. Get ready to develop the courage to step out of your comfort zone and try new things. Join the My Best Life Tribe membership today and unlock a world of opportunities, empowerment, and sisterhood. Our exclusive community offers courses, collaborations, workshops, events, and so much more. Don't wait any longer to start living your best life. Visit our website, www.DrStem-Guest.com, and become a part of something truly special. My Best Life Tribe, where women thrive together. www.DrStem-Guest.com.
Are you ready to bounce back?
Welcome to the Bouncing Back podcast with Dr. Stem, where resilience meets inspiration. Join us as we explore powerful stories of overcoming adversity, share expert insights, and discover the tools you need to bounce back in life. Whether you're facing challenges or seeking motivation, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to the Bouncing Back podcast with Dr. Stem. I am so excited to have my next guest today, Mr. Bravell Dodd Jr. Welcome to the show, sir.
Wow, it's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad that I asked and I had to practice over and over saying your name. So I hope I didn't chop it and I said it right.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay. That's with my name, you know. I mean, when people look at my name, Stembile Matlatini, because that's my full name, everybody's always asking, how do we pronounce that? So I came up with Dr. Stem because that's the easiest on everybody's tongue. So, yeah, so I'm very excited to have you on the podcast, sir. Just for the audience, I will say it in one statement of who you are. And as we go through the podcast, they will get to understand, the work that you do. And the reason why I think you are one of the best matching guests on Bouncing Back, because everything that you do will help and does help anyone and everyone, including the population that you work with, to bounce back. So, Mr. Dodd Jr., Mr. Bravell Dodd Jr. is an expert, is what I would call him. He's an expert that helps single mothers take their natural abilities, talents, and gifts to make more moolah. He calls it moolah, and that's more money, to make more money. So I'm very excited to, have you talk about, what you do. So just in general, tell us who you are and also the work that you do, sir.
Yes. Well, I started in the Navy and I spent 30 years doing that. And after working many years as a naval officer, I can remember getting a job in a company and then being promoted shortly after that. I had two working mothers and one man working for me. As I directed, supported, and worked alongside them, I found a profound difference in the work ethic, commitment, and spirit with the ladies than I did with the men. As you know, sometimes in your job, you have to dig in and help out and do some of those manual or mundane tasks to get the job done, even though you are in management. Well, the guy had a problem with it, but both ladies did not. They also taught me how to better read people's emotional state and how to guide them through some hard times that were not directly related to the job, but they still affected how they showed up for the job and do the work. My empathy and willingness to help them through that by being flexible with their work schedule was met with unwavering loyalty. Let me give you an example. I once had a project that needed to be done before Monday, and it was already Friday, and it looked like the only way I could meet the deadline is by spending some time on the weekend to finish the project. Well, of course, Human Resources said that I don't have money for overtime, and I was not authorized for anyone to work on Saturday. but my employees offered to come in and help on the weekend. But I told them I was not authorized to allow them to do that, and had to practically beg them not to come in because of their loyalty and mutual respect
Mm.
that I had built with them. And I also found that these ladies had the raw material needed to succeed in business already inside as being working mothers. And that's resilience, creativity, and determination. Because you see, resilience is seen every day when they run into obstacles and have to figure out things to get their kids to school and the lunches and the laundry and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Creativity always happens in those projects that children forget to mention until the night before they're due in school. I'm sure you've been there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, and then determination every day, making sure each child makes it to the practices, rehearsals, performances, no matter where they are and what they are. And I find when I show them a way to create their own income, sharing their natural talents and abilities, the only thing, and people want to learn
Uh-huh.
from them,
Yeah.
and they get paid for the efforts, and they figure out that the only thing limiting them in this is their own ability and effort, and they blow it out the water. Once they understand the opportunity in front of them, there's no stopping what they can do.
Yeah.
I love the idea of being able to play that small role of teaching them what they don't know and then watching them light up and then become unstoppable.
Yep.
I help them build side hustles online, sharing their natural talents and abilities for additional income. And as that income grows, it can literally replace their 9 to 5, and they can create unusual financial security for them and their families.
Okay, okay. Now, are you finding that, especially in this time, that that kind of knowledge is very helpful? Because I don't know if I'm the only one that's seeing that the economy has changed and we need extra, hustle.
This is true. And what happens is in today's economy, you're going to find more people have more than one source of income.
Yeah.
We call it multiple streams of income.
Mhm.
And they're looking for ways to do that,
Yeah.
but they want to do it in a way in which they don't have to invest a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of money.
You're right. You're right. You're right. So, how do you see the role of inner dialogue impacting a single mother's ability to pursue her goals and overcome challenges? That self-talk that we talk about.
Yes, I say that the inner voice can help build their confidence, or it can chip away at it more and more each day. You see, we tend to be hard on ourselves, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
We need to combat that dialogue more and more positive self-talk.
Mm.
To see positive self-talk, which is what I talk a lot about, it
Mhm.
reinforces a sense of confidence and it fuels us into action.
Yeah.
Instead of getting stuck and worrying about our challenges, we need to tell ourselves that we got this.
Mm.
And then we need to put ourselves in motion and take action. It's like riding a bike. As long as it's in motion, you can steer it.
Uh,
As long as you are doing something, you can modify your actions and overcome any challenges. But you won't get anything done if you just stop and just think about the problem.
that's very true.
I just think that, yeah, I just think that we need to get back to dreaming again and have a mindset of possibilities.
Mhm.
I always think about when you're in a car. I
Yeah.
like to talk about the fact that there's a rear view mirror,
Yeah.
and it's very small, but the glass that you look out in front to drive the car is much larger.
Yeah.
So we need to stop looking towards the past and focus on what we are trying to achieve in front of us.
Mhm.
This emphasizes that raw material I talked about, creativity,
Yeah.
which I already had mentioned, that every working mother already has. I was watching an action drama the other night,
Yeah.
and there was a great line in that movie that the instructor said to the woman, fight like a woman, not like a man.
Oh.
Think of your strengths and change the rules based on who you are. Reframe the situation to your advantage. That inner dialogue acts like a compass, whether it's positive or negative, it's going to guide you in the direction that you choose to go.
Yes, yes, yes. So, what are some of the common limiting beliefs or negative thought patterns that one encounters, especially the single mothers that you work with, and how do you help them reframe these thoughts?
Well, let's go through some of the common ones I find is like, I'm not good enough. And this is kind of showing a guilt or social culture norms
Yeah.
that you feel inadequate.
Mm.
But to reframe that, what I'd say is start to say to yourself, I'm doing the work of two people, and that shows that I have strength and I'm not deficient.
Mm.
You want to see internal approval and not external approval. It really doesn't matter what other people think.
Think, yes. Yeah.
Another one is I can't afford to take risks. This shows financial insecurity and fear of failure or scarcity mindset. I always talk about the abundance principle. The
Yeah.
abundance principle, which is also in the Bible, in Malachi,
Yeah.
it talks about it talks about God telling man, trust me in this, because money is so dear to our heart. He said,
Yes.
trust me in this and see if I won't open up the windows of heaven and shower a blessing upon you so great that you will not be able to receive it. So a
Hallelujah.
lot of times you'll find that when you give,
Hmm.
and I could give many examples, but I won't at this point.
Yeah.
Many times you find when you give later in the week, all of a sudden you end up with more money and you're trying to
Yes.
figure out what happened. It's
Yes.
just a powerful principle. And anytime I talk to someone about it, they reflect back on a time that it happened to them. They just nicely help someone out, and all of a sudden, opportunity entered in their life
That's true.
unexpectedly, very shortly in the future.
That's true. Very true. It has happened to me many times. Any other limiting beliefs that you can think of?
Yes, I have to do it all myself.
Mm.
And this is due to people letting other people down many times.
Yeah.
And it's not true. Asking for help actually is a sign of wisdom, not weakness.
Yeah.
So I think that asking for help is a good thing. I mean, I had that challenge with my wife and my
Yeah.
mother-in-law in the house. She
Yeah.
wants to do it all herself. She's gonna break her back. I said, use me.
Exactly.
The mother's extremely happy. So,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and then just one more that I find is always comes up. Well, actually, just a couple more. It
Okay.
says it's too late for me.
Mm.
That's just I
I'm
give
too
you.
old. I'm too old.
I'm too old.
I've missed my time. Yeah, right?
Well, I tell people, have you heard of the restaurant Kentucky Fried Chicken? And they say, well, yeah,
Yes.
I've heard of Kentucky
Yes.
Fried Chicken. Well, what they may not know is that Colonel Sanders
Yes.
did not start that business until he was age 65.
Yes. Can you imagine? Yeah.
So I say, in order to reframe that, I
Mm.
always say that you need to tell yourself, man, I get to write the next chapter in how my life turns out. It's never too late to change, and now is the time to actually act on that. I remember a lady who was a vice principal in a school system and got interested in trading stocks in her
Yeah.
spare time.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked out a system where she started to make money. And then she took that system online. And the last time I checked, she was on track to make over $1.5 million a year in her
Mm-hmm.
spare time.
Wow. Yeah.
And then and the last one is, what will people think? And I always love this one. It says, you know, people's opinion is not going to pay your bills, and it's definitely not going to raise your children.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you find the people around you, when you start to change and become different, they start to feel uncomfortable, and in that change, making them uncomfortable, cause them to start to criticize you because they're not changing. They're
Mm-hmm.
staying the same,
Yep.
but you're becoming different.
Yes.
So I recommend starting to get new friends and to start spending less time and meeting up less times with those people who start to criticize you because you're changing.
That's true. That's true. Isn't that interesting? Because then what happens too is if you grow and you still hang out with, like the old friends, the
Yeah,
energy has shifted. Your energy shifts when you learn something new, you blossom, you grow, but then they are still stagnant. So what happens is when you revert back to continue to stay with them, energy changes again, shifts, and now you have this energy of fear, energy of self-doubt. And so I'm with you on that one. I'm with you on that one. So in your experience, what are some of the hidden values or strengths that single mothers often overlook in themselves, and how can they recognize these and unlock new opportunities for themselves?
that is a great question. Love that question.
Yeah.
What I find is a lot of times those raw qualities that I talked about before are not realized by most mothers as being their superpowers. And I'll just talk a little bit about them again. And one of them is resilience, that ability to bounce back when things don't go as planned. Normally, what happens when something goes not as planned, we tend to go back to our old stories like, I knew it would not work. But if we took the time to change our story and learn the lessons why our attempt failed, and then get back up and try again, and then figure out things and how they actually work and succeed, and that time between that fail and try again and succeed begins to get small and small, and we begin to realize that failing is just part of the process. And then we no longer take it personally.
Mm.
Next one is creativity. And like I mentioned before, how many mothers have those last minute projects due in the morning, and how they were able to take scraps of cloth, toothpaste, masking tape, or duct tape, and some other odds and ends they found in the closet or the garage to make something for that precious little child
Yeah.
so they can succeed the next day in school and actually have the project done. It's that same creativity when applied to resolving business situations that allow them to pivot and succeed, and they begin to realize their dreams and start to achieve greater financial stability. And then there's that determination. Mothers don't have time to worry when dinner needs to be made and laundry needs to be done. And little Johnny has to make it to soccer practice, and Susie getting the piano lessons. And homework must be done before bed. And somehow she succeeds at this task and these tasks every single day.
Yeah.
But I think the true secret to
Mm.
the success is starting a side hustle and taking inventory of their natural talents and abilities and realizing the true value of these items. Now, I had mentioned in the past that the information business is a $1 billion a day business and will become a $1 trillion a day business by 2028. This is the reason why there are thousands of opportunities out there to choose from. So the question becomes, how do I decide which one to choose?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's where the X factor comes in. It's when you boil it down, it is not the programs that make the difference. It is who you work with and how you are supported that will make the greatest difference in your life. You need to choose someone you feel comfortable with and who will encourage you. But let's face it, we're social creatures, and just having some program put in your hands is not going to cut it. As a matter of fact, statistics have shown that many people buy these programs, and of that, 80% of the people quit using them in the first couple of weeks. Really bad.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that answer. So, could you walk through a practical strategy or exercise real quick as we're talking about, this that would probably reflect, mindset shifting or even empowering that internal dialogue, which you have stated that that's important that we change our inner internal dialogue.
Yeah, probably the greatest one being a Christian. I always think of a higher power. And
Yes.
as a Christian, I talk a lot of times about as Christians, we go and we pray in the morning,
Mhm.
and then we kind of like put God on the shelf and we go about our day.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it's that way at all. I think that's the wrong answer. If we ask God for help,
Yeah.
we need to have the awareness that He is with us in every situation.
Yeah.
And He's testing us and He's molding us into a better version of ourselves. And if we would just take a deep breath, realize that God is with us, and say in our minds, I wonder what lesson is God trying to teach me now,
Mm.
and act from our higher self, then we are more aware and act accordingly. And many times you find something good comes out of
Yeah.
it. Probably the best example I always like to talk about is when you go to a store, you
Yeah.
get up to the cashier, and the cashier is nasty and abrupt with you.
Mm-hmm.
The human tendency is to just use the same type of abruptness with them. But I challenge you to be nice to them. And what you're going to find is that a lot of times they had something happen in their life the
Yeah.
night before. It was a guy or something. He ended up on the couch the night before and he's upset and he's lashing out.
Yeah.
And you just happen to be that sounding board for them to lash out. But if you just be nice to them and they get that anger out, all of a sudden they become the sweetest people and they become most interested in you. And they really gives you an opportunity not only just to be able to talk to them about business, but to be able to talk to them about their faith as well.
Yeah. I always say, with that example that you just gave, right? I always say to people, I ask myself, is this about me? So I've just come to the grocery store. I'm just paying for my groceries, and you're gonna throw back my credit card or throw back my change and just like have an attitude. So my first question is, wait, is this about me? And real quick, I say to myself, it's not about me. And once I say it's not about me, I'm not taking, that responsibility of that person's attitude. But what I'm going to take responsibility to is my response to that attitude. So I always also say to people, you have two choices. You can either react, which means you're matching that vibration, that energy that you're being given, or you respond, which means now, if I say this is not about me, because I haven't done anything. I said good morning, or I stood here, but I haven't done anything. And I don't know this person. I didn't wake up with them. I don't know what's going on with them. It's not about me. I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to respond. And as I respond, now it's up to them to match my response or to continue being in their reaction, right? And
And
once you do that mentally, again, it's a whole mental, change. But mentally, when you do change and decide to either react or respond, it makes a whole big difference in life.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. It makes a whole big difference. So here's the thing. What advice would you give? Because you've said all this good stuff and everything, right? And of course, everybody wants more moolah. Everybody wants more money, especially that single mother who's doing it all by herself. What advice would you give to someone who's hesitant about change and fear?
Well, I would say is doing those reframes that we talked about and
Yeah,
changing the affirmations that we give ourselves. They did a study and they found out people used to think affirmations were a funny thing, but the brain and the mind is such an interesting thing that those affirmations really help. And what's really more powerful, it's not canned affirmations. What I read about one time is a lady took her affirmations and reframed them and actually recorded them in their own voice. How powerful is that? If you record your affirmations in your own voice and at the same time play it back to yourself in the first person, meaning you're saying I this and I that, I need to change the narrative to one I like to speak in
hmm,
front of people. Like I talk about as an example, let's say I was afraid to speak in front of people
yeah,
and I need to change the narrative to one like I love to speak in front of people, and
yeah,
each time I do, I get better and better. So to reinforce that create a tape that says that and play it every time I get that nervous feeling when I'm about to speak in front of people.
Yeah.
And that's how you start to create that transformational change inside yourself by changing that inner dialogue, that conversation you're having with yourself. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. And then you'll find after a while that it's not really that you can't, it's that you were playing the wrong tape inside your head. So once you change the tape, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. As we end, I wish we could have the whole day, to speak about this because you've got a whole lot of, nuggets of wisdom for our single mothers out there. Remember all of those, all of you that are listening, that we are talking to Mr. Bravell Dodd Jr., who is an expert, but whose passion and love is to help single mothers be financially stable. And what a time in this season to have someone who is totally committed to helping you, figure out ways that you can monetize your talents, something that you do well. What do you do well? Or what is it that people will say, oh my goodness, every time that you make this rice and you make this stew, how do you make it? Guess what? You can monetize on that with your recipes and, showing people how to make that, rice and
Exactly
stew,
right.
whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
So this is why I'm excited to be talking to him. So as we end, can you share with us how you stay, positive and how you maintain a positive mindset? How does that work for you?
Well, not to put a plug in, but I
Yeah.
like to listen to Brendan Bashad, it's interesting. Brendan Bashad, who is the #1 high performance coach in the world,
Yeah.
has a daily fire is what it's called, where he puts out a positive message or some positive thought to think about and dwell on every day. And I find listening to that really helps to start turn my mind. That and the affirmations, like I said, I have my own affirmations that I play in the car on my way to the gym every morning to help me keep my mind staying in the right direction. Because if we don't intentionally try and put something positive in, our mind naturally tries to dwell on the negative. And that's not good for anyone. That's what keeps you average.
That's true.
So we
That's
have to
true.
be intentional about doing those things on a daily basis. That and the fact that stepping back and just uh, meditating a little bit in the
Yeah.
middle of the day, just taking some deep breaths, because a lot of times we get that shallow breath and it puts us in that fight or flight state, which shuts off the part of the brain and allows us to be creative and to think of different things for solutions. So I just recommend that we learn to relax ourselves, to get out of that fight or flight so that then we become more effective in whatever we're doing.
Yeah. How can people find you that would like to learn more about you as well as work with you?
Yes. Well, they can go to my site, Passion Power, and you'll find a lot of powerful things there. It's a Facebook site called Passion Power, and
Okay.
you'll find that I'm putting things out on a consistent basis every day, as well as a new site that I put out for Single Mothers Unite. You'll find that site that you can get to as well from the Passion, and I'll give those links to Dr. Stem, and they'll be available to you.
I was just going to say the same thing, that we will have all the links wherever you will be seeing this podcast or listening to this podcast. There will be links to get hold of all the work that Mr. Bravell Dodd Jr. does. And also, I noticed when I was looking at his website that he even has a free download that you can just put your email in there and get a free download. So don't forget to get that as well, from him. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I hope you did get one statement that was so important. It's who you work with and how you are supported that matters. And failure is not an option. Financial stability is also possible for you. So, until next time, as I always say, be encouraged.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Bouncing Back Podcast with Dr. Stem. We hope you found today's episode inspiring and packed with valuable insights. Remember, no matter the challenges you face, resilience is within your reach. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Join us next time for more stories of strength and perseverance. Until then, keep bouncing back.